Gridmaps in Godot are basically the 3D version of tile maps. They are basically like Lego bricks. Until the Sierras is a new game that I am trying to make, and it can basically be described as a survival game. Though it may not actually be considered as a survival game or may be considered as another game that belongs in another genre. Anyway, at first I thought of making the game into a game with smooth terrains and great looking rivers and those sort of game with normal art style. But right now I'm trying to make it into a more block-like art style. That's where the grid map comes into play. I do not have any experience with 3D related things and modeling and those sort of things. So I most of the times used free assets for these kind of grid maps and all sort of assets. But right now I'm trying to make my own grid map. I originally used the mesh instances in Godot, and now I'm trying to make my own textures and all those sort of things with the 3D model itself. By saying 3D model, I mean cube and half of a cube, which are textured by some textures I downloaded from internet. I originally did not had any idea of how the art style and the environment should look like, but right now I'm thinking of making it look more like Minecraft or old Mario 3D games. I want those textures to look more noisy like in Minecraft and those old games like Call of Duty 1. Those games are mostly made out of texture than the 3D models themselves. Those textures are very noisy and sometimes unbalanced, and I want to make my game look like that with that unbalanced and noisy textures. But I want to create them myself, not take a photograph and apply them. Right now, I think the texture I'm using is actually a real photograph. Anyway, to make the brick or whatever that thing is a block, I just basically used the cube in Blender and textured it that texture I talked about earlier and painted it with the brown color to add a dirt-like texture to it. And then I got another cube and cut it in half and made it triangular on the top. Then I did the same thing and textured it with that same brown color and the grass texture I got from online. Before this, I didn't knew what UV unwrapping is. Heck, I didn't even knew what UV is. I haven't even used Blender in 3 years, I guess. And yet it turned out to be a good asset for prototype, and I am fine with it for now. Originally in the game, I had two grid maps, one for the ports and one for the river banks. Basically, the river banks contain one collision layers, and the port contains one collision layer. And the raft can only be stopped at ports, but not at river banks. However, right now I am thinking of another system to add ports to the river, and the system is basically just adding a vertical, I don't know, a point that comes out of the river bank by which the raft can be stopped. By that stage, they won't look as obvious as the original ports and will add a bit more of a survival feel into the game. So to do that, I have to undo a lot of things, and I am not quite sure that I would regret it at the end or not. So not to regret it at the end, I have to keep a backup of my game. To do that, I have to use version control. I haven't even used it in any of my games, and now I have to learn how to use it. If you have ever watched the Devlog before, this might have not felt like a Devlog. So though this might have not have been as long as a Devlog, this is the end of the video, and thank you for watching.